Hello, everyone. All right, so thanks for joining this session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where from you're joining. So, thanks for joining this session, and we are starting with our webinar on integration strategies with SAP BTP. So, I'm Rakesh Kumar. I'm working in SAP area for more than 18 years, and me and my co-founder Rakesh Shah, we have been driving SAP solutions and implementations for large-scale customers and driving projects for billion-dollar companies, and we'll be trying to address some of the challenges when it comes to SAP BTP and how the overall cloud strategy of SAP is there. So yeah, uh, we'll start with the next slide, please. So, in this today's session, the agenda is more like we'll start with small introduction on what is SAP BTP. I think all of you know what is SAP BTP, but more on how it is going to help enterprises who are going from, let's say, ECC to S4 HANA, or how the enterprises which are already using BTP but they are not leveraged it to the maximum, what kind of services you can have in BTP. So we'll try to address all that, and then we know that there's a due date of 2027, so we'll talk a bit about that. And what are the migration strategies we can take when we move from the ECC to S4 HANA, whether S4 HANA public cloud or private cloud, which is Grow with SAP and Rise with SAP. So we'll compare the differences in that. Then there is a clean core concept with respect to SAP BTP. We'll try to address that and any myths around that. And of course, there are a lot of discussions and conversations are happening in the LinkedIn and other platforms where there's a question on what is clean core. So we'll try to address what is clean core. And lot of customers have invested up, let's say they may be using SAP since last 20 years, 15 years, right? So they have developed a lot of applications around their core ERP system, and they don't want to lose that because there's a huge investment. So when they go for the S4 HANA Grow with SAP or Rise with SAP, how they can achieve those functionalities instead of hampering their business or disrupting their business. So we'll address that aspect as well, and we'll talk a bit about cap and wrap and demystify how it can be useful for your enterprise. So when we talk about SAP BTP, the business technology platform, so if you typically understand from the example of you had many old cell phone companies who were having a cell phone with half the space was covered by the keyboard. So when they got extinct after Apple and Android phones came into picture, the reason they were thinking why they went away because the keyboard went away, but they had the full screen available for the user. But that was not the reason. The reason was the application in those full screen that was important. So they came, both Apple as well as the Android came up with the App Store and Google Store, so Google Play Store. So you had the developers community built around that app stores, who built the application for the business user, and then the traction came and the acceptance to the solution came. So BTP is more towards SAP's approach towards that, and I would say you have the option to create a lot of applications which can solve the business problems, automate their processes, have a nice workflow to cover end-to-end processes, and then build the custom applications as well, which is not possible in the core or maybe too cumbersome in the core. So BTP is going to address all that. So this is like a typical BTP. When you log into BTP cockpit, this is what you see. So you can see the service marketplace where you can search for various BTP services that you want to utilize, either for the app building or integration services, or for a number of services like DMS and things like that. So all those features are there, and then the runtimes like Cloud Foundry, Kaima runtime, all those things you can enable from here, activate those features or services, and then you can utilize across your applications. And then we'll touch upon what kind of applications you can build in BTP briefly. And then comes the connectivity part, which we have in subsequent slides, more about how cloud connector is there, how integration suite or CPI, you can use CPI, it used to be called. Now the term SAP calls is integration suite. So let's call integration suite. So, what kind of applications we can create in SAP BTP? The I mean, in traditional Fiori-based approach, you have been creating multi-target applications, but some of the interesting features are, yes, you can still create Fiori applications in BTP. You can still create multi-target applications in BTP. You can create the CAP project, the CAP application, cloud application programming application, basically, where you can utilize the new age full stack development technologies, basically, for the, let's say, using Node.js or Java, etc., in the CAP project, right? And UI5 and HTML5 projects as well you can create. But the major developments which we see is either you are building the application using wrap approach or cap approach. So either you are using Fiori based applications or cap based application mostly. That's the main area where the major developments are happening in SAP BTP. Now, when we talk about BTP, again, this is a very small list of nice features you can have inside BTP, but there's a plethora of applications or services available in SAP BTP. And the more you start digging into BTP, you'll see so many great things for your enterprise. But problem or challenges, business will try to address those problems and challenges. Why businesses are reluctant kind of to go from the traditional ECC to S4HANA, either on-premise or earlier. Now it is S4HANA private cloud as well as S4HANA public cloud, which rise and grow with SAP. Yeah. So you have the boosters available now. Generative AI features SAP has added in BTP. If you want a particular application development scenario to be set up in SAP BTP, you don't need to go and activate each and every services. There's a pre-fill button sort of, which you activate the booster. It will set up the whole set of services, entitlements, and everything, which will take a lot of manual efforts from your side. So booster is a really intelligent solution SAP has given to give you the head start rather than starting from scratch and doing activation of service and then going for the building the application. So booster is something amazing they have added. You have the workflows options available in SAP BTP. You can automate those workflows, you can monitor those workflows, you can trigger those workflows. So there's amazing features available. Traditionally, we have been using workflow in SAP as well, so pretty much similar thing, but inside SAP BTP with more powerful features, I would say. And you can drive many processes. So workflow can do a lot of things. It will not just, you can run a task, you can do perform certain activity, run a process or run something, that you can decide in the workflow configuration what you want to basically achieve through the workflow. And then document management is already, I think you might be using in your projects. So DMS is there. So why to have an on-premise DMS solution? If you are going to SAP BTP, you can get that service entitlement, and you can start using this BTP DMS solution rather than using the classical SAP DMS solution, which is on-premise in nature. Now, major development that you will be doing for the building your applications will be using the BAS, which is Business Application Studio, and you have VS Code as well to develop a lot of things other than Node.js. Also, if you want Node.js and Java, also if you want to build something, you have the add-ons available using VS Code. So you can do a lot of custom developments or full stack application development using the Business Application Studio. There's a build work zone as well, where you can define the site, internal site for your company, and for different teams or departments, basically to work through a small portal sort of. And it can integrate with your SAP solutions and SAP ERP environments as well. So there is a lot of features and functionalities, I would say, once you go to SAP BTP, and it is fully integrated with the SAP, as well as you can, of course, you can integrate with the non-SAP sources. Now, Rakesh, I think he's a veteran
Yeah,
in industry with a lot of time spent in architecting projects. So I think, yeah, over to you, Rakesh. You can
yeah.
guide the forum. Yeah.
Thank you, Rakesh. we will discuss on more on this with the option of getting onto the SAP ERP. Now it is more with the cloud offerings. So there are two kinds of cloud offerings for the SAP installations and implementations. One goes with the Rise with SAP, something called Rise with SAP, and the other is called Grow with SAP. So we'll try to understand each of these and in what business cases we need to opt for which option. Something we will discuss on this. So I'll start with the Grow with SAP, which is a bit small in the size. So when I say small in size, basically I'm talking about the businesses which are pretty standard, which follow pretty standard processes across their business across the line of business, and which are basically SMB kind of enterprises. So these kind of enterprises can basically, when if they want to go for an ERP solution, something like SAP. So SAP has come out with this Grow with SAP. So this basically is a pre-standard or pre-configured system which basically business can get onto ERP in say less than say around 12 to 14 weeks, 12 to 15 weeks on this, and they can straight away you start using this SAP platform. And added to this, there are some other additional advantages. Since this being a cloud platform, so SAP comes out with a lot of innovations moving forward, and all these innovations are automatically upgraded without any additional cost. So what the cost incurred by the business is only the tenancy cost, which goes with the Grow with SAP. So this is all about the Grow with SAP. Unlike Grow with SAP for SMB, we have Rise with SAP for larger enterprises, where they are actually different, where there are a lot of customizations involved, where they are heavily, their processes are very unique in nature, which are specific to their businesses. So they require a lot of development. So these kind of the businesses, they can go for Rise with SAP. Again, this is again a pre-configured system which comes with a lot of pre-configurations. But addition to that, there are a lot of other developments which has to go with this. So this is where the Rise with SAP comes into picture. And this basically is called a this is a private cloud. This is how SAP defines these particular ERP systems. Yeah. So now we'll discuss on the migration aspect. So again, this is very important area now. We are all, I mean, most of the business and consultants are running on this particular this thing. So there is an end game for ECC, which is 2027, targeted as 2027 by SAP. So all the businesses, whether the SMB or larger enterprises, they all have to migrate at some point in time before to 2027, before the plug is pulled out on the ECC system. So this is one of the areas where we need to have more focus till the 2027 year. Yeah. Can you go on with this? Yeah. So now we'll discuss on the migration aspect. So again, this is very important area now. We are all, I mean, most of the business and consultants are running on this particular this thing. So there is an end game for ECC, which is 2027, targeted as 2027 by SAP. So all the businesses, whether the SMB or larger enterprises, they all have to migrate at some point in time before to 2027, before the plug is pulled out on the ECC system. So this is one of the areas where we need to have more focus till the 2027. So again, when you talk about migration, there needs to be a thorough analysis of from the business side. If the current enterprise is an SMB and it is not a and it is pretty standard, it follows pretty standard processes. Probably it can think over of not migrating, but in fact go with the Grow with SAP, because that will give you them more benefits, and it will be scalable as well. But if it is not the SMB and it has a huge developments in place, it can think of Rise with SAP and it has to go with the migration scenario. So what basically happens with the migration? So what are the advantages and why we really need to migrate it? Okay. So one is that the system is future proof. I mean, it is basically digitized version. The UX are very simplified, and there's basically a mix up of OLAP and OLTP. That gives a very very big benefit to the business in terms of their decision making, their reporting, and then it comes with a lot of other benefits like efficiency increases. So it rules out the traditional approach to the ERP system in terms of executing the transaction. So it's all web based. It's very intuitive and it's web based, and the user finds it very interesting to actually work on these particular systems. Moreover, it has become a digital base, so a lot of digitization happening around these systems, along with a lot of innovation. So these are the few drivers which basically you should think of, you get this when you migrate to the S4 HANA system. Yeah,
I think few pointers are also there on the
yeah,
generative AI is now available, so you can leverage even in BTP.
exactly.
You can call the Open AI or you can call the other AI services. Now you have Joule as well. You have the
Yes. So
very
yeah, so these are the few new things which are coming onto the S4 platform as we move forward. So Joule is basically a kind of chatbot, no generative AI. Its background with the generative AI. It's a chatbot which basically no supports the user in terms of generating a lot of dashboards or reporting or any kind of analysis the business wants to do. It's a voice over querying and also the text based querying, based on this query you get a lot of reports and information from the system. Yeah.
even automated building of applications is possible using
Applications.
generative AI. So that amazing features are there. Again, it is something companies are
See,
exploring and doing. So yeah.
so what are the strategies? How do we really think of migrating? How do we basically strategize those things? So this is what something which we'll discuss on this. So can you move on? So basically, we talked about here the three types of strategies. One is the brownfield strategy. Then we have something called greenfield, and then we have something called selective migration, which is also called a bluefield. So this is a new concept coming into the onto this into this arena. So we'll discuss one by one. So basically, what is brownfield? It's more like there is already an ECC system which basically is having heavily customized, and business is bit skeptic in terms of getting into the new environment. Maybe it may thinking of getting into the new setup of S4 HANA or the benefits maybe in the later stage. So as on immediate basis, they can just go for lift and shift without much of re-engineering with the existing process. Wherever this kind of approach is required, then we say it as a brownfield, and that is how we need to. This is one of the strategies where you can easily move and quickly move from the ECC to onto the S4 HANA system. Now, the other part basically is not the greenfield implementation is not a strategy. It's basically before you decide on the migration, if something like Grow with SAP is suiting your requirements, then we would recommend that you go with the greenfield implementation so that you can, without even migrating, you can go within a short span of time, maybe some 3 months or 4 months of time. So, okay. So this is another approach you can take when you think of migration. And then of course there is a selection migration. So it's basically a combination of brownfield and greenfield, wherein you want to re-engineer certain processes, whereas you want to take major of the processes from the existing system. So it's a kind of hybrid system where this is again termed as a blueprint. So these are some multiple choices for migration. So based on the actual situation on the ground, you can think of what strategy to be used into the migration part here. Yeah, so this is typically the plan as to how we move from EC to the S4. We'll not discuss much on the details, but yes, what I want to highlight here in this particular is a simplification list. So SAP comes out with every version. Comes out with a simplification list. Basically, simplification list helps the business as well as the consultants in identifying the changes. One thing is the changes, the challenges. So system, one version. So if you have an ECC 6, say EHP 6 or EHP 7, which is a base version, and then your target for SAP S4 HANA, say 1902 or 1909 or 2020 or so the latest being the 2023. So for each of the combination, SAP comes out with a detailed list at a line item level, the changes which it happens in the system. So by looking at the simplification list, you will know as on the prima facie what are the changes which are going to happen and how these changes needs to be addressed. So this list will really help the business and the consultant in terms of handling the change management also, because there is a huge change from ECC to S4 HANA. So this is what I want to highlight in this particular migration process. Of course, it has its own project timelines and project processes, which we have to complete to migrate from ECC to S4 HANA. Yeah. So now, when you do a real-time project, what are the challenges? So we have been doing some global projects, and we face a lot of challenges which are very unique to the business. But we can generalize some of the challenges. We can generalize which basically we see in each of these projects. So we have just categorized some of these challenges, and then of course the opportunities. So one of the major challenges which we see is on the data part. The footprint of the data. We have seen many organizations which are on the ECC from past say 20 years or 16 to 20 years, and they have a lot of data actually sitting onto the system. And I mean, then when you migrate, when you think of migration, you need to have a clear-cut strategy as to what data needs to be migrated. So here there are some challenges. So we need to classify the data, whether it is a hot data. So one classification is basically a hot data, which basically means that this data is very hot and you are going to use in S4 as well. You need to consume in S4 as well for your day-to-day activities or operations or reporting or whatever it is. And then there is something called warm data, which depends on situation. You'll use it, otherwise you don't use it. Some kind of data. Then there is some another classification called a cold data. So basically, cold data is something which you are done with and you don't normally use it. It is only maybe for legal purposes or something. You need to hold the data. So you need to have a strategy to handle this data and how which data needs to be migrated onto the S4 HANA. So accordingly, you need to take a plan, and then the plan has to be put into the project to move on the data. Okay? So this is one of the areas of major complexity. Okay? And then the other complexity which we do, which is a part of the migration, is the handling the customization. So when I say customization, basically I'm talking about Y and Z programs, from a
Right.
layman's language.
Right.
Yeah. So Y and Z programs. So how do we handle this during the migration? So here it goes with a thorough analysis of all the existing Z programs or Y programs, which are getting used, which are not getting used, how often they are getting used. So all this understanding has to happen, and then the next step is that you need to see these particular programs which are valid, which you'll be using it in S4 as well, can be compared for a new processes which are coming from the S4 perspective. Because you may think that okay, now it is a custom program. You can have a similar option or similar programs working for you in S4 HANA in a standard way. So those needs to be switched on to the standard rather than taking this customizing again into the back to the S4 system. So there's a lot of time required to handle this particular customization, so that you get to the proper set of those custom programs which are there to be working for you in S4 as well. So this is one of the challenging areas which we see in each of the migration path. Okay, and of course there is an integration. I think Rakesh will take you to the integration in the coming slides. But I will just touch upon this integration. So basically, when we talk about integration, since ECC was on-prem, we had a lot of middleware systems to connect with banks, to connect with
Right.
third parties, all those things. So that is now taken care in BTP, which Rakesh will address in the next slides. And of course, there's a big change again coming from the organization. This is again a huge change depending on the type of user you have, the type of super users you have to adopt for the organizational changes. So this is again a challenge. So this what we see is these are the three main challenges which we face in almost all the projects which are getting into the migration sphere. Yeah. And of course, every challenge has an opportunity again. So the opportunities part is that they are also many times we see that the business is thrilled with the new process which are coming into the system, and they like that system like anything, in S4 HANA. So especially on the reporting part, there's a huge change in the reporting part. The CDS coming into picture, so that really gives a lot of process benefits and the reporting benefits in the new system. And then, of course, you have a lot of analytics. As I told you, OLAP and OLTP now in the one system. So you have a lot of analytics on the desk itself. You don't have to really go to the BI system or know some data
Huge,
warehouse.
huge. I think huge range of Fury apps are there
And then
pre-built already.
you avoid the biggest area, which is called ETL. So there is only one
Yeah.
data with one source, single source of data, and it runs across all the reports, analytics, and everything. So and it's a live data. So it's a huge change in terms of reporting. Which every
So
business likes the advantage. Yeah.
in fact, when you go for a migration, analytics is one area which will have a drastic change because it
Exactly.
will not be the
Exactly.
same anymore.
Exactly.
Uh,
And
and
and on
I also
yeah.
tell the customer this thing that when you buy a new house, you don't want it to be a replica of your old house. So if
Oh
you go
no.
from ECC to S4 HANA, you don't want S4 HANA to look exactly like what you looked in ECC. So analytics is one definite area where you have huge change here. ABAP CDS, AMDP sort of features have come which can run or perform your reporting very fast on the live mode itself. You don't need to use a data warehousing tool like BIBW to do that, unless, of course, you have many companies, many environments, very complex scenarios around having multiple S4 HANA ECC sort of scenarios. Then you can think of a BW. Otherwise, if you're using a simple S4 HANA instance, it is you can do live reporting without any problems. You don't need a BW
Yeah.
intermediary in between, basically. Yeah. And then
yeah,
innovations like generative AI and integration, the new features are which are there, all the things SAP, new innovations SAP is putting in the new age rise with SAP, or as for on a public cloud grow with SAP, and not on the on-premise solutions or ECC. So the roadmap that we are going towards is more towards innovation. If we go with the SAP roadmap, if it is still as for an on-premise, I don't think SAP is doing much innovation there. So like generative AI and all, so that is a big loss, because businesses are changing, and we can't really go on operating in the same model that we have been operating. Yeah.
yeah,
And what happens to your historical data? I think Rakesh has already highlighted the temperature of your data, like hot, cold, and warm data. So hot is something which you need on regular basis, day to day basis. Warm data is something on the less frequent basis, and cold data is something like archive data, which you know once in a while for your regulatory requirements, where you need to provide 5 year financials or something, or 10-year financials, and you want to keep it, but you don't want the whole system to be running slow, or it occupying so much space because of that data. So again, so we have different options to take your hot data inside the current system using data conversions. There are some standard tools available for data conversion in SAP, and you also have the option to move your data from one environment to another environment as well. Traditionally, you have been using BODS, you're using PIPO to run a lot of integration projects and data migration projects. So now, with all these features are available in the SAP integration suite, and it is well qualified to even run your old processes. Like if you are traditionally using idocs, right? In idocs inside your ECC system, and you have moved on to S4 HANA, the integration suite or SAP CPI can still fetch the data from those idocs. So you don't need to change your whole idoc approach. You can still continue using the idoc instead of PIPO. You make the same thing in the iFlow of SAP CPI or integration suite. So you have ICOs in the PIPO, and the corresponding object is iFlow or integration flow in CPI. So you can almost, even there's a tool available in BTP to migrate your old ICOs to iFlows of CPI. Of course, there could be some manual activity as well required, but pretty much that option is available. Or you can build your iFlows. Now, iFlows can connect just like old PIPO. It can connect with any source or any target. It can connect with, let's say, any APIs. It can connect with web services. It can connect with the cloud connector on-premise solutions as well. So it is pretty sturdy solution, I would say. I mean, it is like you have been seen the middlewares like MuleSoft and Boomi, and many other like NetSuite from the Oracle. So if I compare that, I would see that the integration suite is sitting on the top. It is going to be the to be solution for your integration requirements. Yeah. Now, one of the major drivers for the going for the SAP BTP integration suite or SAP BTP is that now SAP is no more like traditional on-premise SAP solution, where everything is driven from SAP. There's a lot of things, or the tools or technologies have come which are cloud-based, and they are no more on-premise. And you are not just dealing with one S4 HANA instance. You are dealing with SAP Ariba for your procurement, success factor for your employee payroll and employee master and employee reporting. SAP Concur you have for you have SAP CPQ, you have Qualtrics, and you have other let's say CRM tools as well from SAP, which are cloud based. So now all this has to be integrated. The old approach was on-premise to on-premise; it was very easy to integrate and all. But within the cloud, we have to change the approach. So you need a middleware, and that perfect middleware is your SAP integration suite, which can connect with all these cloud-based applications, as well as you can even connect with Anaplan, you can connect with Salesforce, whatever you need. This is basically all the new age cloud tools have APIs, and you can connect those APIs in the iFlow of integration suite, basically, to bring the data from the one platform to another. This is how your typical SAP integration suite looks like. So you can see on the left hand side, you have the option to perform your design. You can perform monitoring. You have option to do the inspections. You can also define the integration flows to connect from all the source systems to target systems, like a typical integration flow we are showing here. So you have a source, which is in this case SAP ECC. It will be S4 HANA, or it could be any other SAP environment, grow with SAP, or even public cloud as well. So depending on that, whether you need cloud connect or not, that will be a question. But typically, if you have an on-premise solution or private SAP private cloud S4 HANA instance, you'll need the cloud connector, and then that cloud connector will be connected with BTP. In BTP, you have the destination coming for that SAP ECC instance, and in CPI, the iFlow is created where we are consuming using the WSDL mapping or using the basically web services inside the SAP CPI. Now, the source could be you can write a function module and remote enabled function module and enable that in SAP CPI. CPI can fetch that function module as a web service, or you can have, let's say, an IDOC you have already been using. Let's say for MatMas, Material Master, you use MatMas. For Customer Master, you use DebMas. You use for COGS. So things like that, already IDOC that you're using can be converted or can be still used in the new SAP CPI or integration scenario in the iFlow. Now, if you want to also connect with the external tools, let's say like Anaplan. So Anaplan has got an API to integrate with your BTP environment. You will have to OAuth related integration. You will set up the OAuth security, or you can write tokenization logic. So there is a Groovy script in Integration Suite where you can write your own piece of logic to create the tokens, because that's for security. You need to create the tokens, and it has to change. Otherwise, the system identifies that between the two environments. Now, in SAP Integration Suite, you have the option to design all this using Groovy script, and inside that Groovy script, you can almost like a validation on the, let's say, phone number. The phone number is of 10 digits or 9 digits, like that. So you can write that kind of validations as well. You have XSLT as well, where you can set up your transformation. You can transform your data, what is coming from the source, to the target. You can write in between some checks. Let's say if a material is blank coming from the source, we can exclude that record, or plant is blank from the source, we can exclude that record. Or if I have a profit center coming from the source, but company code is embedded as 4 character in that, so I can export or split that record to get company code separately from it. So like lot of interesting things in terms. I don't want to keep this session for such kind of technical discussion, but you have amazing features using the Groovy script and using the XSLT transformation to achieve the interfaces or integration between the systems. Okay. Now we talked about something called cloud connector. What is a cloud connector basically? So cloud connector is something like you do a handshake between the two systems. When you are sitting in the internet in the cloud environment, like SAP SAC or Ariba or something, like Conquer or anything like that. But you don't want the external environment or cloud environment to know about the host name and port number. To secure that on-premise system from the cloud connector does that handshake. So you define the sub account of your BTP here, like you can see here, sub account details, and then you define the on-premise details, like what is the host name, what is the port number, and all the user details, etc. That is provided here to connect between the systems. Now, once you have connected the system, this destination will appear in the BTP, and then it can connect with the on-premise system from cloud to on-premise basically. So when you set up a CPI environment, this cloud connector becomes important if you're connecting with SAP, with non-SAP systems, etc. So cloud connector is basically your handshake, which is anonymizing the backend on-premise system, which is behind your firewall or behind your protected environment, basically. Yeah. Okay. So again, I talked about you have to define the sub account details, and then you can define the system details. And if you are fetching some BAPIs or function modules or web services, you can define in the resources section, and accordingly, only those will be accessible. You cannot access the whole system. Cloud Connector is kind of restricting you to access only specific artifacts, not the whole data of the whole system. So that kind of protection is there basically. So as I said, so all your new age processes, your source to pay, your hire to retire for your HCM, your production, plan to production, your payment integration in banking, payment integration,
Bank
your
connectivity.
your lead to cash. So the whole set of business processes are now not being only done by S4 HANA. It is also being done by a number of cloud-based tools. So if you go with the traditional approach of ECC, you cannot really achieve that kind of smooth integration. So you need to go for SAP BTP integration suite, which can connect with all such tools and help you to enable the seamless data movement or migration from one system to another system. Basically. Now, this question maybe Rakesh, you can put some light
Yeah.
on.
So we were discussing on the previous, like, existing ECC system, versus the S4 HANA system. So one of the areas where we do is, what we do is, especially for the large enterprises, there's a heavy customization involved in the existing system in ECC. But how this is handled in S4 HANA, especially in the BTP environment, is bit different. So when I say bit different, basically all the enhancements or development or customizations or any kind of development like Z or Y is suggested by SAP is not to be done into the core system. When I say core system, the main system, in S4 HANA system. Of course, you have a different environment wherein you can do this, all the enhancements and developments. What will happen is, why SAP is suggesting like this is basically to have this system, the core system as clean system, because it will enhance the innovations and upgrades. So basically, when you talk about the upgrades, you don't have to really get onto the like regression testing and all those. So a lot of time is saved when you go for an upgrade, and also the moving forward all these new patches which goes onto the standard SAP system. So if your core is clean, basically it helps to do the faster upgrades and without much of the issues across the test the business process, impacting the business process and all. So that is the concept of the basically getting onto the clean core. So this is, I think, one of the areas where consultants and business has to look into this. So all the enhancements, all the developments has to be done in a separate environment, which gets basically connected to your core system, and then your process are getting executed. Yeah. So this is the
Right.
concept of core. Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of debate in I saw recently
Yes.
in the LinkedIn platform that people are saying, what is this marketing strategy of SAP regards to clean core? I think somewhere,
So few things,
yeah,
Rakesh, just to add, few things is, one is this. Of course, it really benefits the upgrade part in terms of reducing the testing time and the implementation time of the upgrade. The other part is the innovation, especially SAP is now focused on a lot of innovations, especially in AI ML. So it doesn't want the core systems to be hindering or intervening with the customized developments on all this area. So I think that
right.
is one of the reasons why they want to drive this. The all the enhancements into a different environment and getting the clean core concept into the existing. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Mhm.
And basically, you want to be stack free. You don't want the
Exactly.
whenever upgrade happens, your core system is not having any challenges when you are upgrading. So it will
Yes.
be more easy to go to the new environment, which is a challenge right now with a lot of businesses. They have done a lot of custom developments there, and it's very difficult to move away. And
Yes.
new age things also you cannot get if you are on the old environment. So of course, that is something also you have to look at. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I think one of the other debates I was looking at recently on the LinkedIn was BTP cap versus BTP wrap, and there was a lot of teams people were trying to say that cap is good or wrap is good, but frankly speaking, I also always believe that the software is only the means to support the business. It's not about building something zazzy. It has to solve the problem of the business. That is the more important part. Business is putting in money and they want to solve their problem. So BTP, if you build in BTP cap, great. If you can build the same thing working in the similar fashion with the same efficiency or performance in RAP, that is equally good. So what is cap basically? Cloud application programming. You typically use the Node.js or Java based programming environment, and RAP is something your traditional, not exactly traditional app, I would say new age app that you use. RESTful app programming, you use OData, you use Fury elements, and it's more standard approach of SAP so far in the past. But CAP is something new SAP has added, and it is opening its stack to the developer community because you have a lot of footprints in Java. and Node.js all around. You have a lot of, I would say, programs, apps, codes in that those languages. So it's much easy to do something there compared to ABAP. Again, ABAP is equally strong tool. I cannot say that it is any less than Node.js or Java or anything. I have used ABAP for very long time, and I'm very find it a fantastic language, and it's really really powerful. So I don't think there is a real debate between what you use. It will depend on the developer's interest and the business application that you are building. Are you what problem you are solving, and the ultimate aim should be the solving the business problem or providing the solution to the business. Whether you build in cap or wrap, I don't think will be much of a, I would say, debatable issue there, because there is a equal number of people in cap, equal number of people in wrap. Wrap is rather more because it's more of a SAP approach for towards application development. But cap also has its own outside the SAP world. There's a lot of developments in Java and Node.js, so it is equally, I would say, powerful. So it's something. I mean, look, you have to look at from the perspective of what you are building for the business as a problem-solving thing. And the second thing is, again, custom applications that you have built across the years for, let's say, your partner portal or your vendor portal, which is not in SAP. Again, so you want to bring that towards your SAP environment. So in BTP, so there's options to do that. You can build that in BTP. You have full stack application development. You can build database layer in HANA-DB or PostGRE or SQLite, whatever you want to use. And the front end also you can build that. So all this is again possible. You can build all that in BTP, and that should be your approach. You don't want to bring so many servers or so many different environments sitting there. That's a cost for you because you have to maintain it. And if you bring everything to BTP, the benefit in terms of cost is huge. So that is something I wanted to highlight here. Yeah. So with this, I think we'll keep the session open for any. Still, if you have any questions, you can write to us. Our email
Yes.
is there on the screen. But in general, you can connect with us on the social media platform, as well as me and Rakesh from Trijotech are the
Yeah.
two Rakesh from the SAP world. Will be happy to connect with you as
Support.
well. And yeah, looking forward to connecting with you again in the next webinar. So thank you everyone. Thanks for your time, and bye bye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah. Bye bye.